And then I realized it's because I was competing with these more institutional grade players that they only wanted to deal with a larger facility. So instead of buying those and competing with those guys, I just started to start building them. We have three avenues in our kind of our investing thesis. So the first is to buy existing self-storage facilities from mom and pop operators, and then to do the value add and wrap them up into 10, 20, 30 property portfolios. The reason we're able to do that, and there's such a opportunity to do so, is because of the fragmentation in this market. Only 18 to 20% of all the facilities owned in the United States are owned by the six largest publicly traded REITs. Then the next 100 operators, which I'm a part of, own about 10% of the remaining self-storage facilities. That means that there's 70+% of the facilities in the United States are owned by mom and pop operators that are not running it like a professional business. So there's this opportunity to aggregate and to roll up facilities into larger portfolios, which then gives you cap rate compression and a better return on your investment. The second avenue we had was when we were buying these existing facilities, we realized that once we got over about 50,000 net rentable square feet, the cap rate started plummeting. And then I realized it's because I was competing with these more institutional grade players that they only wanted to deal with a larger facility. So instead of buying those and competing with those guys, I just started to start building them. So this is kind of goes back into our conversation. Where am I building these Class A REIT grade facilities that are institutional in nature, 3 stories, state-of-the-art technology? I'm not building them in areas where population is declining, like California, New York, New Jersey, Chicago. I'm building them in Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, right? Georgia, all these areas where we're seeing massive population growth, massive job growth, and diversity. So that is the second avenue, is building these, call it, total cost $16 to $19 million projects, and then selling them or refinancing them in the $25 to $27 million range. Now, that's a huge capital gain to experience, right, over a 5-year period, going from 16 to 25 million. So what do? Well, we employ a strategy called cost segregation, where we get our cost segregation engineers involved. And instead of doing it as an afterthought, what we actually do is we bring them to the table with our architect and we say, how do we design this building to maximize the benefit of the cost segregation study in order to shift a lot of that capital gain into that 5, 7, and 15-year property bucket? And so on a lot of our investments, our investors are making anywhere between 1 to 2x their initial investment back just in year one operating losses because of that cost segregation when we place the asset into service. Now, that was all good and fine until the pandemic hit. And then we started seeing issues with pricing volatility on supplies, supply chain issues, where even if I was willing to pay 500% for the cost of a material, I couldn't get it to my site in time. So that's when we shifted to our third and final strategy, which is buying big box retail stores that have been dormant for a few years and then converting those into self-storage facilities that are in the Class A REIT grade space. And that allowed us to employ a second piece of that strategy, which is called partial asset disposition. So not only did we get the first hit on that, that cost segregation study from disposing of an asset that has value, but then once we built out the storage facility inside of that asset, we got to do a second hit for putting the facility in service and returning even more passive losses through depreciation to our investors.